Hey folks, that was a solo on Nica's Dream. Last week I played a single line solo over this, and this week I'm mixing in some chords as we go. So in this video we're going to talk about that approach. This can be applied to already established melodies or improvised melodies. I'd love to hear your experience with this, and if you have anything to add, if I missed anything, let me know down in the comments, or just share your experience with this. Also, I have a link to a PDF on the guide tone pairs that I'm going to talk about here in this video with Nica's Dream. So check that out in the description below. So if you've played a guitar-based duo, or even guitar with a horn or a singer, or maybe a trio setting, you might find that when it goes to play the melody of the tune, or maybe an intro or a solo, it's really helpful to fill in some of the chords and guide the listener through the harmony and the form as you're playing some melodic ideas. So some of what I'm doing here is technically not even playing chords. These are considered pairs. I could play these two tones, which fit into the larger chord, and I'm just using strings 3 and 4. Now in this solo earlier, I'm opting for more of a minor 6 kind of sound. Now of course, in addition to that pair, I might add some other tones above it, depending on what's working at the given moment, but I'm establishing a chord and then maybe playing some melody notes, and these can be done at separate times or at the same time. A lot of what I'm doing there in the beginning is filling some of the gaps where I might have ended a phrase and I'm not ready to start a new phrase just yet. At other moments, it may get kind of intertwined. So for example, I might play where I've got a little melody going, and I've got some little moments where I'm playing a few of the pairs underneath. And then of course we could play it all together too. So for, let's say, on that very first chord, right? Maybe even going back to the chord melody I did on this, just kind of putting this whole chord together. We have the pair down here and a couple more notes, including the melody. Most often the melody goes above the chord itself. Occasionally it might sit in the middle. There are moments, perhaps in Travels by Pat Metheny, where you're really trying to get some of those middle register lines to come out and give a little extra force. That's pretty challenging to get across, but that is an approach. And then we do sometimes play melody in the lower register under the chord. Find that quite a bit mixed in with classical guitar repertoire. But oftentimes in this style, we might play that more as a bass line running along with things. So it's helpful to think of the guitar at times as split up into 3 pairs of strings. The low 2 for bass notes or root notes, middle 2 for these pairs that I'm talking about that help to identify the chord that we're after, usually 3s and 7s, but sometimes some other notes. And then the top 2 strings as our melody tones, and then sometimes they overlap. So if you're playing a little bit right, you don't have to restrict your melody over to strings 1 and 2. You can kind of let them overlap. So like I said, this is great for small groups, but also solo guitar playing. All right, and you'll find through doing this, you'll have some very natural voice leading kinds of tendencies. So here we have the A flat minor 7 to the D flat 7. Right, so just one tone is moving, one tone is staying the same, and then the opposite tone moves down for the G flat, so you visualize where the bass note is. Little motion above the C7. Going on to C minor. 7 flat 5, no 5 in this. Just these simple guide tones. And then the F7, and so on like that. In the bridge, we have these just little chains. So we have the A flat sus to the D flat major 7. So visualize where those bass notes are, but if the bass is already covering that, then you can save up your resources of fingers and all that, especially at these faster tempos, for just playing small little groups. And so on like that. So it can really offer some insights into how progressions move and the voice leading tendencies. And notice the overall direction is just generally downward. Run out of room on the guitar there, but up here, so you could even at some point bring it up. One thing that's helped me along the way here is to harmonize each and every note so that basically I know that I can do it and I have access to that. But then when I go to play, I like to free it up and leave more space. But let's say you're taking the melody of this tune. Let's use that as an example again. So instead of playing something like that, you could try to harmonize each and every note. Use the same voicing there. Keep holding on to it. Now those you want to have short in general, but for practice this could work well. Maybe put another lower note into that to fill it out. But that general practice can really ensure that you know inversions really well, understand how chords and melody relate to one another. That way you're not only memorizing a sequence of shapes and memorizing fingerings, but you kind of know the why and how behind it, which is better for retention and being able to play it in the long term. So in general, chord melody, you want to have a lot of drop 2 voicings and inversions available to you. So like this very first one we're talking about be the third inversion of a B flat minor major 7. And then you can say replace the root note with a 9, and then that gives you the melody. And since the bass player is likely playing the root note, it's okay to have a rootless voicing. It's perfectly fine. A lot of what I'm doing in this solo up front is really working with more drop 3 voicings that have been pared down into what's often called shell voicings. Let's go to that B flat 7 for a moment. So if you've played a B flat 7, or in this case a B flat 7 sharp 5, what I'm essentially doing is removing, this is a drop 3 voicing, I'm removing the root note, and then I'm removing this. This becomes available to me if I'm soloing. I can use that as a melody note. And then move on to this next chord, E flat 7. Then you might ask, well, where does that fit in to drop 3 voicings? So this one's a little bit more mysterious. But if we had an E flat 7 in second inversion drop 3, that's what we're working with here. And just like the other one, it's just pared down, so I don't have the 5th there, and I don't have the root over here. And then what happens is your voices move nice and smooth. So let's say F minor 7 flat 5. Again, that's an inversion, but drop 3 to the B flat 7 over to the E flat 7. But that becomes maybe a little bit cumbersome at this tempo and really just kind of unnecessary. And then freeing up other fingers can allow you to play around with more melodic playing and then make these little motions at the chords. So I play like this. And it's simpler. But again, you can add any extensions that you like to make it a little more complex. And of course, that's available too. I mentioned a little earlier some issues with learning chord melodies by rote. So what I really recommend is knowing the melody separate and the chords separate, having a really firm foundation in that, and then start putting those together. Maybe play the melody with the bass note of the given chord, fill in some of the chords in between. So this can apply to an established melody or if you're soloing. Okay, so it's really cool to have a very dense passage with a lot of chords, but I wouldn't overuse that approach. So maybe fill it in a little bit here and there, and then leave some space and let it breathe a little bit. Remember not to get into too many fancy or technical chord melody voicings that are at the sacrifice of the rhythm and the feel of it. So prioritize the overall feel of the tune and the group, or if you're working with backing tracks or something like that. And also playing some chord shapes that you know just because you know them is another pitfall that we can get into, and might want to avoid doing that and stay within kind of the service of whatever the moment needs. Okay, so part of this series is to take some questions and all that. So I've got a question from Eric, who often visits the channel and attends live streams. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a particular chord, which we've been discussing in some of the comments of a recent video I did on Nica's Dream chord melody. So let's go over that a little bit. So there's a little bit of a question about this particular voicing. Okay, let me put it into context. So that is on the bridge. So we walk up from this F minor 7, then we go to the E flat minor 7, and then D flat major 7, looks like an F minor 7. All right, and then here we go into kind of a quartal harmony, you might call it, just stacked fourths. And then so this is applied to the F minor 7, and then we go into this B flat 13 with a flat 9. So this is very, very short duration here. And then we head up to this B flat 13. So it's a rootless voicing. Also, it doesn't have the third in it, so it's serving the motion of this. And if you like a different chord, you can certainly choose it. One option would be to play, since you're already on F minor 7 over here, you could simply just play this note, the melody note, on this next chord. So it could look something like, and then go. So that would work fine. The reason I didn't choose that is that I just wanted a little more motion going up. So this has just more tones in between. So this voice, you might say, goes up to there. So, and then this next voice really just stays the same. And then the next one here, so we get a good amount of motion on that. And then, of course, the melody. So I hope that clarifies that for you, Eric. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave one down below. Love to hear from you. And I'd love to feature some of these questions on future videos. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and check out Fretprints.com. We're doing live streams and sound slice exercises and all sorts of things that go a bit deeper than my YouTube content. Enjoy your practice session, and I'll see you all in the next one.